Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Umineko, End of the Golden Witch. And, hey Kat, how are you doing? As always, am hyped for this episode. Because I know it's gonna happen, I think. I might be wrong, actually. That might be next episode. The next arc, I should say. But, yeah, we're gonna find out together. And it'll be great, I promise. Yeah, hope you're all doing good. I just spilled a bunch of tea. I was making some tea, and I didn't realize that the little string that the bag is on got hooked on my finger, and I just pulled my hand away to grab something. I just yoinked the tea bag right out of the mug, and it spilled a bunch of tea. It's okay though. It wasn't a lot, but I almost was late for my own dang stream, which has not happened in a long time actually. I was early once. That did happen once by an hour, which was really silly because I forgot how time works. That was my that was my only reason. Oh, you've been playing Dark Souls? Nice. Oh god, yeah, it was a close one, I'm not gonna lie, because the mug was obviously right on the edge of the counter. Because I'm smart. I'm literally half blind, but I will still put stuff like dangerously close on the edge of, you know, tables, counters, that sort of thing. I do not learn from my mistakes. It's I wouldn't call myself clumsy because given the circumstances, I do pretty okay, but it's not smart in my case. Living dangerously close to the edge, yeah. Yes. I'm a rebel. I live I thrive in danger. Or, I don't know. Anyway, last time, Erica summoned a new piece to this chessboard. Delanor, a Nox, who is a priest of sorts, I believe. Was it a priest? Let me look that up real quick, if that's like the right word. She's an inquisitor. She's a bishop, that's the word. I don't... I don't know church terms, okay. But yes, an inquisitor. And she went... I would love to say all out, but she fought with Battler in a battle of wits. And as we later found out, didn't quite go all out. She actually showed up in the Golden Land, where Beatrice is, you know, the real actual... real-ish, actual-ish Beatrice, who's very depressed at the moment, and not speaking, but she showed up there, Flanor did, and had a nice chat and some tea with Battler and Virgilia and Beato, and apologized essentially for holding back, and some other stuff. There was some Umineko style discussion about, you know, reasoning and logic. Battler of wits, yeah. And yeah, she walked off again. So the first half was very intense, lots of fighting, and then the second half was just very calm and chill and just having a nice little chat with some tea. And yeah, now we're back with Erica. But before that, our content warning for these games and this arc in particular. Character deaths, detailed descriptions of gore and body horror, child abuse, discussion and mentions of suicide, and misogyny. Also, Erica's really mean. But that's why we like her. Also, fun fact, last episode I had to voice 32 characters, I believe it was, in the end. I counted. Yes, Erica needs her own content warning, if only for the fact that she calls herself an intellectual rapist. Yike, girl. Yike. Don't. Just don't. Just don't. Don't call yourself that. Alright. Just warming up my vocal cords, hold on. Yeah, last week made my head spin. It was so many. It's probably gonna be the same amount this week, so enjoy my suffering, I guess. I hope you like it. Please stand on one leg. I could give them all one voice? No, that's not how we do things here. Cornelia slowly got up and stood on one leg, as she had been ordered. Her hands were clasped behind her back, because she had been ordered to do so. Then, with a loud thump, Erica shoved her from behind with both hands. Cornelia landed on the floor face first with a thud. Please stand on one leg. Cornelia rose shakily. Then, once again, she stood on one leg, as she had been ordered. She had been ordered not to try to keep her balance, so she'd fallen on her face over and over again. She'd barely managed to protect her nose, but after smashing against the floor so many times, her face was bright red. She wasn't shedding any tears. No, she couldn't shed them, because she was forbidden to do even that. Please stand on one leg. Thump, thud. Please stand on one leg. Thump, thud. Thump, thud. Thump, thud. Erica repeated this falling torture over and over again. At times like this, Erica hated counting things. So she decided that, when she ran out of fingers to keep count on, she would just keep on going until she lost interest. However, Erica's main redeeming feature was that she never lost interest in anything. So the torture continued on, without end. Erica didn't know the truth of why Cornelia had been unable to fully protect the window. So the whole time since then, she had been criticizing her, blaming her entirely for their defeat. Yeah, I don't think Erica has redeeming features. No. Nah. For your attention, I beg to state the following. Please forgive Cornelia for her failing. She has already performed sufficient penance. Oh, is that so? Then please take her place from now on. Gertrude bears no sin for which to repent. Gertrude, please stand. On one leg. Clasp your hands behind you. Gertrude followed the order, and clasped her hands behind her back, standing on one leg. You mustn't resist, or try to keep your balance. You are not permitted to bend your knees. You are not permitted to shed any tears. Do you understand? As you wish. Gertrude. Erica took her time walking behind Gertrude. She was even enjoying making her wonder when she'd push. At that moment, Gertrude and Cornelia burst in a bright light and disappeared. Delanor had returned at some point, and had sent them back to heaven for the time being. Erica, who'd had her fun spoiled, directed an openly malicious expression at Delanor. Miss Erica, I will bear the punishment for my subordinate as her superior. Please have mercy upon her. No, thank you. Punishment is meaningful because of the pain it inflicts. There's nothing remotely interesting about punishing an unfeeling doll girl that can't receive a single scratch. Erica slowly grabbed hold of the back of Delanor's hair and tugged on it unrelentingly. Delanor's neck tilted unnaturally backwards, creaking. I cannot be harmed, but I can be hurt. As if you have feelings to hurt. You witch-hunting murder doll. Are you trying to talk back to me? Me, the envoy and double of the great Lady Bern Castle? No. I am being reprimanded by Lady Bern Castle because you people are useless. Never demonstrate such miserable incompetence again. Are we understood? She pulled back the hair she had grabbed even more strongly. This didn't cause Delanor any physical pain, but she could clearly feel Erica's ill will. My apologies. Please forgive me. Filth. With a sound like taut strings snapping, she ripped out several strands of Delanor's hair. I hate her. Sorry. My god, I hate her. Then, Erica waved her hand about as though trying to shake off something dirty that had gotten stuck to it. Well, that's enough. I'm done. My anger has finally subsided and my little gray cells are tingling again. Please call those two useless people back and reconstruct the crime scene. Let's start the deduction game. Understood. Gertrude. Cornelia. As you wish. The two of them reappeared behind Delanor and reconstructed the crime scene for Erica, the one who had just been tormenting them. Kinzo disappearing was nothing more than an added bonus for the first Twilight. Let's start investigating the first Twilight proper. Oh, before that, are you aware that we were actually presented with a mystery before the murders even occurred? Yes. You mean the letter with the mark of the one-winged eagle which appeared at midnight last night along with a knock by some person. That's right. The tale appears to describe that it was impossible for any of the humans at that moment, creating the illusion that an unknown witch exists. Let's start by crushing this witch illusion. We'll first check the situation in the dining hall last night when the letter was delivered. Understood. Gertrude. Cornelia. Reconstruct last night's family conference in the dining hall. As you wish. The family conference last night was conducted with the adult relatives and battler present. And partway through, the servants arrived to serve tea. Let's review everyone's whereabouts at the exact moment the letter appeared. How did that go again? For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. Before the family conference, Erica, George, Jessica, Maria, Nanjo, Goda, and Kumasawa left the mansion and moved to the guest house. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. Of those who remain, only Kraus, Natsuhi, and Genji were in the second floor corridor, while all the others were in the dining hall. Because the mansion had been entirely locked in advance of the family conference, everyone else was unable to enter the mansion. Aha! That would mean that no one inside the mansion could have knocked and placed the letter there, right? Yes. The witch side will probably say that this person is the same who wrote the letter. The witch Beatrice. Ridiculous. A stupid trick. There's no guarantee that the letter was placed there at the stroke of midnight. It's only sensible to consider that it might have been placed there earlier. Just a few minutes before the letter was discovered, Shannon and Kanon came in to serve tea. When they entered, multiple witnesses confirmed that there was nothing suspicious like a letter in the hallway. Most likely, one of those not in the dining hall, Kraus, Natsuhi, or Genji, simply saw their chance right after that and placed the letter there. No, in fact, it would have been possible for the people who supposedly went to the guest house too. We've heard that the mansion was locked and that no one outside could get in, but if someone only pretended to go to the guest house and instead hid inside the mansion, it's perfectly possible that they could have placed the letter there. For your attention. Blue truth. Valid. In that case, the problem is the knock. Unlike the letter, someone would have to exist there at the instant of the knock. I see. So this is the so-called proof that a person who shouldn't be there, the witch, existed? This is completely ridiculous. Do they think that this is all it takes to get me, Fururo Erika, to surrender? Firstly, I question whether the knock was even something hitting the door or the dining hall at all. For example, the mansion's construction may be such that when a certain pillar on the second floor is struck, the noise is transmitted down the pillar, and it sounds just like a knock on the door to people in the dining hall. Or they could have misheard some other random sound as a knock and misconstrued it in a similar way. Or a tape with the sound of a knock recorded on it could have been secretly playing, which had been carefully set up to be heard at exactly that time. In any case, even if no one was on the other side of the door, I could think of many ways to make them hear a knock. How's that, my master? What do you think of my reasoning? Well, you heard her. How did she do? Well, it looks like your cute little piece gave it her all to think up these blue truths. So I guess I'll be nice and give out a few red truths myself. I guess I'll start with a letter. There was that knock when the large clock struck midnight. And when the door was opened, there lay a letter in an envelope bearing the one-winged eagle. The idea that the people who weren't in the dining hall secretly placed the letter in the hallway is such an old one, right? Kraus, Natsuhi, and Genji did not even touch that letter. Oh? Then, when Shannon and Kanon came in to serve tea, who was the last human to enter the dining hall? Let's say it was Kanon. Wouldn't it be easy if Kanon, the last person in, secretly dropped the letter there when he closed the door? Not a single person in the dining hall. No, there's a simpler way to say it. Among all those inside the mansion at midnight, not a single one of them placed that letter in the hallway. So you can't say that no one touched it? Of course not. They touched it when they picked it up. Of course I can't say none of them touched it. I see. Then, let's interpret it this way. Someone who existed outside of the mansion at midnight placed the letter somewhere other than the hallway beforehand. Then, it moved by some means and ended up placed in the hallway. Just as an example, let's say it was deliberately stuck to the underside of the serving cart carrying the tea set, which the servants wheel into the room. It was simply affixed there in a way that would make it come unstuck after a certain amount of time. such that when it eventually fell off, it would become the letter left by a witch who shouldn't exist. In other words, this is a classic trick where the true sender gives themselves an alibi by making the letter appear at a different time. For your attention. Blue truth. Valid. In other words, the fact that it landed just outside the dining hall door was just the culprit's good luck. It could have easily fallen in the kitchen, the corridor, or even inside the dining hall itself. Ah, good. If it had happened inside the dining hall, that would have been even more wonderful. Within everyone's sight, a letter would suddenly appear on the floor. And the red stating it appeared suddenly in the locked room of the dining hall and was not touched by anyone there wouldn't even be violated. Well done. If the letter was stuck to the bottom of the serving cart, then anyone could be the culprit. Hey Camel, welcome to the stream, how are you doing? That might work okay for the letter. But will that same type of argument work for the knock as well? Let's try this again, shall we? Please, go ahead. Neither Kraus, nor Natsuhi, nor Genji knocked. This isn't the limited meaning of them knocking on the door, okay? It means that they didn't use a pillar to transmit the sound, or push the play button on a cassette tape they recorded, or create that knock sound by any means. Of course, this includes all direct, indirect, intentional, coincidental, and unintentional means. This wedge has already been knocked in, but I'll repeat it. Maybe someone other than Kraus, Natsuhi, or Genji made that knock. Or else a sound that could be misidentified as a knock. Yeah, I'm doing alright. Just drinking some tea and reading. Tea's about to go cold actually, so I gotta finish this quick. For your information, I beg to inform you of the following. At midnight, except for Kraus, Natsuhi, and Genji in the second floor corridor, and all of the people in the dining hall, no other humans existed inside the mansion. Doing God's work. Damn, cat. You're gonna make me blush. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. In addition to Kraus, Natsuhi, and Genji, none of those in the dining hall knocked. Where knocking includes all direct, indirect, intentional, unintentional, and coincidental events that could create a knocking sound. A direct knock refers to someone literally hitting a door to make a knocking sound. An intentional knock refers to someone creating a fake knocking sound with intent to make it appear that someone knocked. An unintentional knock refers to someone unintentionally creating a fake knocking sound. A coincidental knock refers to some kind of coincidence creating a fake knocking sound. They're being real thorough about this. In other words, it is impossible for anyone who was in the mansion to have been the source of a knocking sound. In this case, anyone also includes any people who might have gone undetected or unobserved. Anyone who was in the mansion also includes any unknown person X who was secretly hiding in the mansion. Therefore, this literally meant that it was impossible for anyone inside the mansion to knock, with no wordplay allowed. Yeah, this knock is a big deal. I see. So no matter how much I toy with it, the only ones who could possibly produce the knocking sound are those in what we might call the guest house group. Like me, for example. What if I, Fururo Eriga, recorded a knocking sound on a cassette tape, secretly installed it somewhere, and set it up so that it would start playing at exactly midnight? Of course, I wasn't in the mansion at midnight. There aren't any problems with this, are there? There are no problems. However, the knock serves to alert everyone to the existence of the letter, and does so precisely because the letter is on the other side of the door. If the letter had fallen in the kitchen, for instance, I do not think that the knock would have served to inform anyone of the letter's existence. If the trick in Erica's theory about the letter being stuck to the serving cart was accurate, then the location that the letter fell was a matter of luck. The people in the dining hall were able to notice it due to the knock only because it had fortunately fallen near the door. However, if the location it fell was a matter of chance, it might have landed in the far-off kitchen, or even remained stuck the entire time. If that had happened, the knock would have been ignored as though they just imagined it. In other words, the knock by itself carries no message at all. Only in combination with the letter is the knock capable of asserting that someone existed there. In that case, the knock can't be combined with the theory of the letter falling from the bottom of a serving cart at a random location. The letter must be reliably positioned on the other side of the door so that it can be discovered thanks to the knock. However, it was declared and read that no one in the mansion placed the letter in the hallway.
I'll reword that read about placing it in the hallway a bit. No one in the mansion placed the letter in the hallway. That goes for every conceivable possibility. Directly, indirectly, intentionally, coincidentally, and unintentionally. For example, let's assume there was a device on the serving cart that drops the letter when it stops moving. The culprit could predict that the cart would probably stop when those two knocked on the door to the dining hall. So you might think that with this theory, you could cleverly make it so that the letter drops right in front of the door. But even this doesn't work, okay? The action of stopping the serving cart would indirectly lead to placing the letter in the hallway. That would mean that Shannon and Kanon, who are pushing the cart, indirectly and unintentionally placed the letter there. So even this is no good. Furthermore, any setup so the letter peels off with the passage of time would mean that the people who pushed the serving cart to that location coincidentally and unintentionally placed the letter there. Of course, this is also no good.
Repetition requested. At midnight, only Erika, George, Jessica, Maria, Nanjo, Goda, and Kumasawa existed outside the mansion. Say if someone in the dining hall slipped out of the window just for the instant of midnight, and didn't exist in the mansion at that time. With a bit of wordplay like that, it might be possible to get around the truth. The red truth.
Repetition request? I know I'm being generous with the red, but aren't you getting a bit greedy? I'm not an idiot like Beato, so I'm not gonna go blabbing all the repetitions my opponent asks for.
I'll give you a full body massage scrub and a bath with marshmallows and Konpeito sometime soon. Hard enough to rub your skin off.
Now you've gotta keep that promise.
Ugh, gross. Sorry about that.
Alright then, here's a freebie. I'll respond to your repetition request. At midnight, only Erika, George, Jessica, Maria, Nanjo, Goda, and Kumasawa existed outside the mansion.
In other words, try as we might, those 8 people, including Erika, cannot exist inside the mansion, much less in front of the door. And at the same time, try as we might, those who are inside the mansion cannot exist outside the mansion.
In that case, the letter might have been stuck to the ceiling of the hallway instead of the serving cart. The ceiling of the hallway is surprisingly high, so even if you just stuck it out there in the open, maybe no one would notice it. This way, it would certainly fall in the corridor. And you can slip by the red if someone outside the mansion did this. Good job, me.
For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. The letter never existed on the ceiling of the hallway.
For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following.
Know that the letter never touched the serving cart.
Who cares about that? The point is, someone outside the mansion used some kind of trick to place the letter there. I know what you're trying to do. Use that letter to knock to argue that Beatrice exists. Well, it definitely won't work on Furuto Erika. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. It was impossible for anyone outside the mansion to influence anything inside the mansion after the start of the family conference. Then someone outside the mansion set up some kind of gimmick before the family conference. Something other than the ceiling or the serving cart. For your attention, Blue Truth, invalid. Why? That's the only possibility, right? Someone outside the mansion used some kind of trick other than the ceiling or the serving cart. For your attention, unless you can specify or hypothesize what kind of trick, it will not be recognized as Blue Truth. For your attention, Lady Erika's Blue Truths regarding the letter have all been destroyed. All been destroyed? Take a little more care with how you speak to me, you useless furniture. If I can just think of that trick, it's an instant checkmate. All been destroyed. Blue Truth invalid. I'm the detective. Furuto Erika. How dare you speak to me like that?
Erika's face twisted. These words that seemed to deny Erika, no, Erika's deductions, were the worst form of torture and humiliation for her. And the best kind of revenge. Takes a big sip. Miss Erika, why don't we postpone the mystery of the letter for now? Your blue stake regarding the knock, someone outside the mansion played it with a cassette tape, is still valid. If it was possible to solve the noise, then it should be possible to solve the letter as well. As Erika made to grab and pull Gertrude's hair, Delanar stopped her with those words.
That's right. My Blue Truth regarding the knock is still valid. It's not true that everything's been denied. My master, I will solve the mystery of the letter without fail. Please allow me one more... no. Please allow me more time. Instead of one more time. Which is a very different thing to say. However, on the mystery of the knock, I've produced results. I've driven in the blue stake that someone outside the mansion set things up with a cassette tape or something to make a knock sound play. Bern, your piece really is a cute kid. Very lively. She's shouting for your forgiveness, saying she may have resigned on one of the riddles, but she did solve the other. What are you going to do? Will you forgive her?
Well, let me see. Normally, I'd never forgive one of my pieces for the utter disgrace of surrendering. But if she's managed to solve one of the mysteries, maybe I'll let it slide for now.
My master.
When Berncastle said that she'd let it slide, Erika couldn't hide her relief.
Then it's time to get punched, Erika-chan. None of the characters would misidentify a knocking sound.
Oh? What's that supposed to mean?
Misidentifying a knocking sound means this. They would not mistake a sound very similar to a knocking sound for a real knocking sound. Hitting a pillar to make something similar to a knocking sound is no good. When you record a knocking sound on a cassette tape and play it back, it becomes the sound of a tape with a knocking sound on it, and not a knocking sound. So that's no good either. In other words, all of them would correctly distinguish a knocking sound of something truly hitting the door. And they definitely wouldn't mishear it. It's totally impossible that any sounds except hitting that door directly would be misinterpreted as a knock. What the... But that means, at the time the clock struck midnight, no one existed who could have hit the door. Yep, they don't exist. After all, It was the Golden Witch Beatrice who hid it. So in other words, there's no way around this other than hitting the door. So what about this? There was some kind of device that could knock on the door. There was something like an automatic door knocker, and that made it possible for someone to knock without touching the door with their hands. To knock means someone hitting a door with their hand. I won't accept hitting it with some contraption. They heard a knock at the same time as the clock struck midnight. Everyone inside the dining hall definitely heard it at that time. And none of them would misinterpret a knocking sound. Kraus, Natsuhi, and Genji had no involvement in any knocking. No one else existed inside the mansion. And a knock refers to the action of standing directly in front of a door and hitting it with a hand. Hey, Bern, what do you think of my red? Don't you think this is pretty uncomplicated and enjoyable for something before the first twilight? The Golden Witch descended quietly with a knocking sound. This is really interesting. This really is fascinating, Lambda. Now we're talking. This is great.
The two witches doubled over laughing, as though this was the most fun thing in the world.
My master. Have no fear. As long as my little gray cells are given the time, I will definitely reach an answer to this pitiful red.
Is that so? Thank you. And I'm disappointed, Erika. You've bored me, Erika. As my piece and double, the fact that you have nothing is so pathetic, it's comical. If you don't know the answer, then be silent forever, please. And please open your mouth only when you know the answer. You're nothing but a piece. Your absence wouldn't hinder my progress in this game in the slightest. If you can't think of any theories in particular, please just go back to the peace tray and gather dust or something. It's painful to even reserve space in my memory for useless pieces.
Bern is pretty forgetful. If you don't try a little harder, Bern's gonna forget you, you know? You'll collect dust in the forgotten peace tray, awaiting your turn that will never come. I imagine that'd be pretty harsh, don't you think? Have no fear, Great Lady Lambda Delta, and my master. I promise to deliver such a spectacular performance to earn your approval that you will never be disappointed in me again.
Oh, how reassuring. I guess you're my double after all. Then you'd better make sure you do work hard, in all kinds of ways. If you don't make an impact, I might forget all about you. As the two witches giggled, they continued discussing the letter and the knock. There was no room for Erika to step in. If she resigned herself to that, she would literally have no place to go, and would be buried in an eternal oblivion. Erika endured with a hideous expression, looking with shame at the back of the master who was ignoring her. And with both fists clenched, she thought frantically for some kind of breakthrough. I am the detective. I am Furudo Erika. I am the piece and double and servant of the great Lady Berncastle. I'll definitely make her satisfied. Satisfied. Definitely. You should be a battler. How dare you humiliate me so? As she stood there, ignored by the witches and shrouded in darkness, it looked like she had been made to go stand on her own in the hallway. You know, like a bratty kid. Which is kind of what she is, so... checks out. I'm being very harsh on her, but I mean, she's been nothing but terrible. So, you know, not holding back. With the crime in the early morning, we'd completely forgotten about breakfast. So we now had our first meal of the day, at a time that could never be called breakfast time. Even Goda-san's wonderful meal, which had supposedly been in the works since yesterday night, provided no comfort. The several empty seats quietly burdened us with a pain-filled sadness. Then, in the middle of this meal that felt like a vigil, Erica suddenly stood up. Everyone focused on her to see what was the matter. Her expression was somewhere on the line between invigorated and insane, as though she'd come up with some groundbreaking and strange invention. Hey, what's up? Are you okay?
I've got it. I've got it. Did you think I wouldn't be able to work it out? Oh, I understand perfectly well. There's no way something so stupid could happen. With an ugly expression covered with cold sweat, Erica glared and lashed out at Battler.
You've got it? Got what?
There's no way you jumped down from the third floor study. Not one of us saw you fall down and land in the courtyard. When you set up the ladder from the courtyard and saw Rudolph-san go up into the third-story window, you closely observed the structure of the outer wall and realized by cleverly using the rain gutters and other handholds, it would be possible to descend to the courtyard from the third-floor window. You didn't jump down. You used the rain gutters and so on and clambered down the outer wall like a loser. What do you think of my blue truth? Come on, where's your rebuttal?
My rebuttal?
You have no rebuttal? Then my truth is valid, yes? There, you see? It may have looked like you jumped down all dramatically, but it was all an illusion. All you actually did was jump out and grab desperately onto the rain gutter.
My argument then was about whether it was possible for Grandfather to escape from the study, remember? And it was possible for Grandfather to escape through the window. All I did was prove that. Whether either of us jumped down or clambered down makes no difference.
Don't try to change the subject. A mere human can't jump down from the third floor. How do you like that? How do you like that? What do you think of my reasoning, my master?
Are you short of sleep or something? Just calm down and eat your food. When he escaped to the courtyard through the window, Battler really did use the rain gutter to crawl down the wall, just like Erica said. If you rearrange the letters of Erica Furuto, you get Our Fair Juke. Damn, true. That's where her ego comes from, huh? Explains a lot. Take note, don't name your kids anything that is an anagram for stuff that gives them an ego. Yeah, she definitely thinks of herself as some kind of royalty, and like detectives as some sort of like all-powerful, all-knowing concept, I guess? Kind of like detectives are a form of royalty, I guess. So that's bucking wild. His hand slipped halfway, and he fell from a considerable height. But he managed to land on his feet without injuring himself. No one witnessed this, but most likely, everyone except Erica currently in the dining hall had realized that something like this had happened. No one had believed that he jumped down from the third floor in the window in the first place. Excuse me? I believed, Battler. I believed. Even if they hadn't witnessed it directly. So they had no clue what Erica was complaining about and obsessing over all of a sudden, and started to whisper, glancing at her with cold eyes and dubious faces.
You can't argue back, can you? Your jumping was denied. My truth won out. My blue truth is valid. Please acknowledge it's my master. I'm not incompetent or a disappointment. I will match up to your expectations without fail, so please don't abandon me, my master.
Facing someone that might have been somewhere beyond the ceiling, Erica spread her arms and yelled. Then, as if in answer, a massive lightning bolt landed very close by. It was an incredible sound. They could even feel the earth shake. At the same time as that sound, Erica went limp, falling into her seat like a puppet who just had all its strings cut. Then, as the sound of wind and rain gradually filled the room once again, Erica slowly opened her eyes as though recovering from a bout of dizziness. Then, she continued eating in silence, as though nothing had happened. As if she had been acting normally the whole time. Didn't Erica just stand up suddenly and rant at someone? Erica continued eating quietly, her behavior so perfectly normal that everyone started to doubt themselves. After seeing her behaving so calmly, everyone convinced themselves that they were totally worn out, and that they must have just hallucinated Erica suddenly yelling. So Erica's sudden transfiguration of a few seconds ago was treated as a daydream and faded out of everyone's memory. Erica quietly poked at her salad and muttered in a voice no one could hear.
Thank you very much, great Lady Bern Castle. I am Furudo Erica. I am my master's piece, and her double. I will most certainly present you with an incredible tale.
I love the song. It's totally fair to like expect, bones to be broken and, Kinzo to not be able to jump down. But they had me going. I was along for the ride. Personally, my reasoning would be like, yes, you could jump down, but you'd have to like aim where you land, like, I don't know, in a bush or something. Something to break your fall, Because they have a garden, there's a lot of plants. Who knows? But yeah, it makes way more sense to just crawl down, I guess. Mental image ruined. A rose bush would be a thorny landing. Actually, I think they confirmed that it is because there's types without thorns, but if I recall correctly in episode 1 it is established that they do have thorns because they tell Maria to be careful with the roses. So, yeah. That would hurt.
Oh yes, knives and forks are such primitive utensils, aren't they? Chopsticks are best. They're the easiest way to eat a salad, don't you agree? Well, everyone?
Yeah, once you get the hang of it, chopsticks are fine, don't get me wrong. You're gonna know, with some practice, you can just... You can use them like... easy peasy, and to eat all kinds of stuff, except maybe soup. But you drink that, so that's fine, right? But I do think if, stabbing a salad with a fork is more efficient. But then it's Erica, so, Can't trust Erica with anything. You can get a lot. If you're really good with chopsticks, you could probably make it work and grab more than you would with a fork. It depends, I guess. But still, pointy thing better, obviously, for like grabbing things. I don't know. It's just okay. Now I'm actually genuinely getting into the chopsticks discourse, so I'm just gonna stop myself before I pull an Erica, basically. It's... You know what? I kind of see a case for both ways, so I'm in the middle on this. Oh my god, okay. I mean, you make good points, but... Oh, wait, also... No, don't worry about a cat. I also just realized my content warning repeater is not on. Let me just fix that real quick. It's supposed to repeat every now and then for people who drop in later. Should be fine now. Alrighty.
Battle-san returned to the guest house at 3 a.m. Then, the rest of you split up about 30 minutes later. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. You were getting pretty tired by that point. We decided to take a short rest before starting up again. And yes, thank you, I will save. You just wanted to see the golden butterfly? The butterfly is basically a bribe now for you to remind me to save. So that's working as intended. It's perfect. To smoke out the murder of the first Twilight, Erica closely questioned everyone involved to check their alibis and evidence. To confirm these, she went around the mansion with them, and when needed, took several trips out to the guest house through all the rain. Her vitality was admirable. Though she was an uninvited guest, everyone had long since stopped feeling anything strange about the way she imitated a detective. Every time this man appears on screen, I'm just very happy. It seems Erica is also steadily building her foundation. It's useless. Whether alibis exist or not, she can't deny our existence. Kinzo escaped through the window and is now one with the mists of Tokanjima. She can never capture or deny him. When all's said and done, perhaps you could say he's escaped to the underside of the chessboard. In that case, maybe it would be appropriate to say he's been stored away. Come to think of it, about those corpses from the first Twilight, they've been stored away too, right? Yes, they've been put away in my darkness between the human world and the other. And that would-be detective won't be able to find them. Of course. It's absolutely impossible for a human. Wanna check? Just in case. Oh, and we also need to take this opportunity to re-examine what Lady Berncastle's goals are likely to be from now on. As they say, if you know your enemy, you need not fear the outcome of 100 battles. If you know the truth, you can win 100 battles without fighting. Quite so. Yeah, when he shows up, it's like, you know what it's gonna be. He's just gonna be a little bit snarky. He's gonna be polite, just very chill, you know. And he's gonna look fancy as fuck. Gap opened up a large, pitch-black hole in the sky and had it swallow all of them up. She invited Beato and Ronove to the gap between worlds where she had hidden the corpses. That place was nowhere in this world, and existed at no time of this world. In other words, it truly and literally was a place not of this world. In this place, questions such as where is this and what time is it had no meaning. Every single place led to here, but no place could be reached from here. Furthermore, all times connected to this place, but no time could be passed to from here? Could be passed to from here. I see. In short, this place was just what they said it was, the underside of the chessboard. No, perhaps it would be most appropriate to call this the captured pile, or pieces that have left the game go. Then, deep within this pitch-black world, 5 corpses came to view, illuminated by a glow like a faint spotlight. The 5 pitiful corpses with their necks sliced open had been arranged neatly. Their eyelids were shut and their hands joined. Apparently, even Gap had respect for the dead. Oh my. There are 5 sacrifices for the first twilight in this game? Not 6? Oh, it's you, Master. I was worried about where you'd gone. The game has already reached the first twilight, and as you can see, the first victims have emerged. Now it's time for the real show. I'm getting all excited. I see. The version of you that's here looks to be in high spirits. I'm pleased. If you took away my high spirits, my bewitching body, and my pleasant disposition, I'd have nothing left. For some reason, Virgilia praised Beato for her high spirits. Though Beato was taken aback at such granny-like words coming out of Virgilia's mouth all of a sudden, she answered while bumping a fist against her chest. Virgilia had been absent often during this game. She might even have been away from her seat when Balor solved the epitaph and during the uproar that followed. Apparently, she had been absent for so many critical points that she didn't have a good grasp of what had happened so far in this game. For now, we've got 5 corpses, all slit through the neck, as you can see. George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, and Genji. Something sharp had sliced open all 5 of their necks. Those gaping wounds opened wider than their mouths, and made it feel as though they would no longer need their mouths to breathe. I see. So, anyone looking at George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, or Genji's corpses could confirm at a glance that they are dead. Red. Well, there's no point in me holding out against you. That's right. At a glance, anyone could confirm that these corpses are dead, so it is absolutely impossible that they are just people playing dead. Why did Leah use the red? Who knows? However, she is always thinking of Milady. She must have something in mind that will benefit Milady. But they had hidden the corpses here so that no one could use the red. Despite that, however, Ronove was right. Virgilia always thought of Beatrice first. The way that these corpses, which Gap had gone to all the trouble of erasing, had now been confirmed with the red, made a slightly displeased expression rise to Gap's face. However, in the end she remembered that she was only a guest, and shrugged. did you have Gap hide the corpses? Well, since the epitaph has already been solved, this game of mine is different from usual. I now have serving and protecting Natsuhi as my goal. How would concealing their corpses protect Natsuhi? We've more or less figured out what our opponent's moves will be. This is probably a trap made to corner Natsuhi. Most likely, they'll sort through alibis for the first Twilight and find them for everyone except Natsuhi. Last night, Natsuhi-sama was the first to leave the family conference, and then rested alone in her room. Unfortunately, she has no alibi whatsoever until the next morning. We have already ensured that Kinzo's existence is impossible to disprove. However, the enemy has one remaining method of breaking through that roadblock. I see. They can corner Natsuhi and make her confess that Kinzo doesn't exist. The enemy is probably after something like that. By watching the movements of the pieces involved with the family conference, we quickly realized that Natsuhi was isolated, noticed that trap of theirs, and countered with this move. The corpses disappear. Everyone has alibis, and no one exists who could have moved them. Not only does this support the claim that a witch exists, it also throws doubt on whether they were actually dead in the first place, making it just about possible for Natsuhi to avoid being a suspect. In other words, it's possible for Natsuhi-sama to claim that the sacrifices of the first Twilight were only plain dead. Even though many people confirmed their deaths for certain in the cousin's room, confirmation is nowhere near red truth. No matter how strongly they claim to have seen unmistakable corpses, the red truth doesn't exist in the human world. Because the corpses don't exist, Natsuhi can discount their words as a mistake, a trick, or by saying that all of them were lying. And it's possible for her to do this over and over to buy time for herself. In the human world, which lacks the red truth, perpetual check is an effective move. An endless argument with both sides denying the other's claims. Not pretty. True. However, beauty is secondary to victory. If someone who cannot achieve victory seeks it, it is nothing but a poison to them. They do say might makes right. And even if I don't think it's beautiful, those Voyager witches will probably like it and say it isn't boring. I see. I've managed to grasp the flow of this game. It seems that it will get quite nasty. We're fully aware of that, and we already know that Natsuhi is probably about to be lured into yet another trap. A trap? Someone Lady Lambda Delta created, who calls himself a man from 19 years ago, has already threatened Natsuhi. She was ordered to go into a closet in a certain guest room at 1 p.m., which is only a few minutes away, and hide there. Kraus was taken as a hostage, so Natsuhi can't resist. I see. How relentless. Can you protect her? Of course. After all, Natsuhi isn't the culprit. No matter how much they treat her as one, both truth and illusions are on our side. There's no way we can lose. Alright. Sorry, just needed some water. Natsuhi threw her cup of black tea to the ground in protest to show the anger that flowed throughout her entire body, mimicking me at the start of this episode, also spilling my tea everywhere. Hell yeah, get some water. Hydration time. do you mean by that? Are you saying that you suspect me? Also, give me 1 second, I need to cough. Okay, that's better.
I hear what you're saying. You left before anyone else, returned to your room, and didn't leave that room until morning. I am simply explaining that I need you to prove that. Otherwise, it won't count as an alibi.
Prove it? How?
Any way you like. All you have to do is prove objectively that it was impossible for you to commit the crime. Everyone else is cooperating. I would very much appreciate it if you could also be a little less harsh with me. And please give me your alibi and evidence.
That's right. The whole night is a blank space in time for Natsuhine-san. After she left the conference saying she was going to bed, she might have gone to the guest house and attacked George and the others.
Don't be so ridiculous.
Why would I kill George-kun? And most of all, why ever would I kill my own daughter? Calm down. We're all equally suspicious. It's sad, but we all have to prove our innocence. Yeah. We've all been thinking frantically about how to prove our alibis for last night, so we can clear up the suspicion against us. I know you can't like being suspected, Natsuhi-san. If it frustrates you, shouldn't your first priority be searching for some way to prove your own innocence? The relatives spoke as though they were all under equal suspicion, but the mood about the place didn't feel so peaceful. Erika was still in the middle of confirming everything, but other than Natsuhi, who was unwilling to prove her alibi, everyone else had an alibi which was reasonably credible. Only Natsuhi, who claimed that just being suspected was an insult, was uncooperative with Erika, and the position began to grow more and more perilous. This parlor was no longer a place of comfort for Natsuhi, and the sound of the cup smashing had made that decisive.
This is ridiculous. Why must I be suspected when I've lost a daughter? You're maliciously trying to make me look like the culprit just because I went to bed early last night. I cannot stand this humiliation any further.
Oh, so what are you going to do about it? Show us some kind of alibi that proves your innocence.
As if you could. Give me back my George, you murderer.
Give it a rest, Eva. Natsuhi-san, you're probably a little tired too. Of course, so are we. Why don't we take it easy for a bit? Seriously, we're a little too high-strung. Natsuhi, where are you going?
This search for alibis and culprits is truly ludicrous. The typhoon passes and the police arrive, everything will be exposed to the light of day. There's no reason whatsoever for us to play detectives. Am I wrong, Erika-san? Generally speaking, you would be right. However, I have the authority to do this.
Who gave her that authority? No one asked. It was an authority given by words of power from a higher world, so the pieces weren't even allowed to doubt it.
I will take my leave. I have no intention of playing along with your pointless questioning until the police are here. If you suspect me, feel free to do so. I will leave it to the police to investigate that and clear my name.
It may be a bit late to mention this, but, well, no, this happens every time. As usual, the phone couldn't connect to the police. Natsuhi said the police would come, but that wasn't exactly true. Strictly speaking, the boat to pick them up would come tomorrow, and they would be able to use the radio on that boat to contact the police. Well, it's not like I let everyone live that long anyway. Natsuhi-san, it's dangerous to be alone. Perhaps it would be better if you... Why not let her? That might make for some excellent proof. If Natsuhine-san gets murdered in her own room, that'll be excellent proof of her innocence. Quit it, Aniki. It's probably best if we all get a bit of rest. Our bodies won't last until tomorrow.
Rest is fine, but let's not let our guard down, okay? We might not make it through the night, much less tomorrow.
Natsuhi. If you're returning to your room, make sure you lock it tight, close the windows and shutters, and stay safe. I don't want to suspect anyone. And more than that, I don't want there to be any more victims.
Thank you, Battler-kun.
Then I'll return to my room. Goda, you're in charge now. I know this is a horrible situation, but make sure that the guests at least have everything they need. Yes, madam. I shall do so. With everyone watching her, Natsuhi left the parlor. From their faces, she could tell that they were expecting the classic mystery pattern, that the first person to quarrel and leave the circle would become the next victim. Natsuhi couldn't disobey because of the threat against Kraus, who had been taken as a hostage. Very soon it would be 1 p.m., the time that had been arranged. Welcome back from the well. She was to hide for an hour in the closet of a specific guest room. It was easy to suspect that this bizarre order was a trap to select her as the next sacrifice. She thought of various ways to resist, but all methods would be useless against the culprit who had a hostage and was observing her from close by. So Natsuhi could do nothing but obediently follow his orders, and then claim that she had been forced to do this for her husband's safety. Which is true, she would have been forced to do this, but it's not really a claim, is it? That's just the truth. Huh. Interesting wording there. As the arranged time had drawn near, Natsuhi had intentionally acted annoyed and smashed the cup on the ground to give her an excuse for slipping out of the parlor. At any rate, no matter how cowardly a trap it may be, I cannot disobey now. I am now the one who carries the burden of the one-winged eagle. Now that my husband, Kraus, has been captured, I must protect it, even if I have to crawl through the mud. Of course, I am prepared to do that. I am Ushiromi Natsuhi. Even if I am not permitted to bear the one-winged eagle on my clothes, Father gave me permission to bear it in my heart. I think dashing away in a rage got me here without raising too much suspicion. So far, everything has gone well. Before my eyes was the doorknob of the specified guest room. However, I wondered about the lock. The servants are under orders to always lock any unused rooms. What will I do if it's locked? I dashed out of the parlor pretending that I was returning to my room. Going back and asking a servant to unlock this guest room would be obviously suspicious. If possible, I'd like to get this eerie hide-and-seek over with without anyone noticing. In that phone call from the one who claimed to be a man from 19 years ago, he said that I would win if no one found me, but lose if anyone did find me. He said that he'd release my husband whether I won or lost. But as a person with a hostage taken against me, I'd rather not lose. I don't like it at all, but I have to go along with this game. I softly gripped the doorknob, and I could feel that it was unlocked. Did Shannon or Kumasawa forget to lock it after cleaning? Or did that man unlock it in advance? That man... couldn't be waiting for me in this room, could he? And then he'll... All that about hide and seek might have been just an excuse. I kept the fact that I was coming here secret, and all of the other people think I'm resting in my room. If I were to be killed in this situation, in this room, it might create a new baffling murder case like an extension of the one which occurred this morning. If that's what he's up to, so much the better. It'll be a good chance to confront the culprit directly. Natsu had some experience with using a naginata, but only from casual lessons. Yo, that's cool though. Unlike Ava, she couldn't brag about being able to hold off any single ruffian indefinitely. As she was now, she had no realistic chance of prevailing over a man with malicious intent on her own, and no weapons that could make that possible. Yeah, just leave the door open. But then it's not hide and seek either, is it? She readied herself and slowly opened the door. She couldn't afford to stand around in the corridor and risk being seen by someone. The atmosphere inside the guest room was ice cold, and she could sense no trace of a person waiting impatiently for her. All she could hear were the unsettling sounds of the wind and rain. At first, that seemed to be proof that no one existed to threaten her, but before long, it only stirred up the uneasy feeling inside her all the more. The closet was just off to the side of anyone entering the room. Lined up inside it was a set of hangers where guests could hang their coats. This closet, which had nothing hanging in it, was large enough for even an adult to hide in. She softly opened the closet. Of course, there was nothing inside. She would have to hide quietly in here for an hour. The room had a wood floor, but something like a carpet had been laid in the closet. It seemed that sitting down wouldn't be a problem. She had been sure that someone would be waiting for her in this room, or that a strange letter would be lying in the closet. She had even imagined the worst, that her husband's corpse might be inside. However, none of these things she imagined turned out to be true. All that was here was a cold guest room, and a lifeless closet which silently urged her to go inside. And he told me to hide in here for an hour. He's making fun of me. Natsuhi shrugged, turned around, then locked and chained the guest room door. This way, no one will be able to get into this room. In other words, no one will be able to find me for the next hour. I win. What a stupid game of hide and seek. This would certainly result in a total victory in the hide and seek game against that mystery man. However, it was such an easy victory, it made her feel uneasy. This is normally against the rules of hide and seek. Even if I win, won't this displease the culprit? And everyone thinks I'm in my room right now. If they find a room with a chain set, that will be an impossible locked room to them. Erica was dashing around the mansion to confirm everyone's alibi. If she notices that the chain is set on this room, there will probably be an uproar which will end in them cutting the chain and searching the room. If that happens, I'll be found hiding in the closet right away. It would be easy for me to honestly confess why I was hiding. But that man insisted that I not reveal that. If I tell them, I might be endangering my husband. Thinking of it that way, setting the chain, no, even locking the door might be a bad idea. That's right. This room was unlocked when I came here. If it were to suddenly become locked, it's conceivable that it might catch someone's attention. It's better if I don't do anything unnecessary. That man only told me to hide. So, in the end, I have no choice but to do what he says. I hate doing it, but I can't disobey. I undid both of those two precious locks, went into the dimly lit closet filled with the smell of old wood, and managed to close the door from the inside. Pitch black. It reminded me of when I was young, when I used to hide somewhere and then surprise my mother. But that peaceful recollection wasn't enough to kill off my anxiety. It really is pitch black. From in here, I won't even be able to check my watch to see if an hour has passed. I'll probably need to open the door a crack every once in a while to let in enough light for my watch. For now, I sat down and folded my legs. I thought about holding my knees to my chest, but it hurt my back when I tried. I'm not as young as I used to be. Even though I and the rest of my class were made to sit on the floor clasping our knees in every PE class as grade schoolers, I now have to struggle just to sit down. Just sitting down here for an hour will probably hurt a lot. I can't believe he expects me to sit in the darkness for a full hour, listening only to the wind and the rain. Ironically, Natsuhi had made Jessica do the exact same thing in the past. She had done it to scold Jessica's persistent bad habits and teach her a lesson when she was a little girl. She thought that making Jessica stay put in the darkness would sprout a desire to reflect on her mistakes, and that, this way, she would understand what she had done wrong. To Natsuhi, it almost felt like she was being made to do the same thing. If that was the true purpose of this hide and seek. How naive of me. This must be my naivete. The hope that if his goal is to make me repent, nothing will happen here during this hour. Uncertainty and fear of that man's shadow are not what I need right now. Will someone suddenly come to this room, open this closet, and do something horrible to me now that I've come here in total secrecy as promised? That's what I should be worrying about. The culprit, or one of his accomplices, is very close by. If they weren't, they wouldn't be able to observe me so thoroughly. I don't want to think it, but it's highly likely that the culprit bought off one of the servants. The culprit was able to hide an eerie card with autumn written on it in my room. My personal room is always locked. That trick wouldn't have been possible without a key. Instead of believing that they obtained the key when the servants weren't looking, it's much more realistic to assume that one of the servants lent the culprit a hand. Still, how did they know that autumn is my favorite season? How ghastly. The thought that this mystery man might be peeking into my heart sent goosebumps running across my whole body. It's true that I like autumn, but I've never said that out loud. I don't think anyone's ever asked me either. I could even ask my husband what my favorite season is and he would probably be stuck for an answer. No. There was one time I told it to a single person. That's right. Shannon. On an autumn day long ago, I happened to be in a good mood, and I mentioned that autumn was my favorite of the 4 seasons. I can't believe it. Then the culprit, or one of their accomplices, has to be Shannon. Only Shannon could know that I like autumn. In that case, this is clear proof that Shannon is involved. That card with autumn on it is proof. Incredible. After 10 years of being provided for by our family. I trembled and shook with rage. Didn't Kinzo once say that the emotion of anger is the fastest sedative to cure fear and uncertainty? It's easy to tell the most fearful humans from within a crowd. They're always the first to get angry. I remember him telling me that. So I realized that this anger was a sign that I was actually frightened, and I tried my best to remain calm. However, this is a fascinating clue that I can use to turn things around. Shannon may not be reliable as a servant, but if she's the accomplice used by that mystery man, this might actually be convenient. She's a timid girl. If I threaten her, she'll probably spill the name of the mastermind in an instant. I'll tell the police about this in secret. I'm certain it will be a big clue that will help her in arresting the culprit. That card was probably meant to surprise me and control me, but he's actually dug his own grave. I never told anyone except Shannon that I like autumn. This is unshakable proof that she's working with the culprit. Though I thought this time in the closet would crush me with uncertainty and uneasiness, it had actually given me the start of a counterattack. If I hadn't been given this time in the darkness, I probably wouldn't have noticed this. I felt almost grateful to the culprit for making up this foolish game. My mood brightened. I still couldn't guarantee that my husband was safe, but I was determined to take him back and force the culprit to face judgment. I gripped my fists tightly and further strengthened my resolve to avoid losing this fight at any cost. And yeah, I think this might even be the first time that a human, or rather a human piece, has used the red. I'm assuming that it's because you know, there was the comment in the narration earlier that, oh, none of them are I'm not gonna kill them off. So my thinking is this is basically Lambda's narration, and that's why there's red, because Lambda can use the red. Rattle, rattle. At that moment, I heard the sudden sound of someone trying to force a locked door open, and my heart leapt. Oh, it was unlocked. The voice was Hideyoshi's. I heard a quiet voice, as though he was talking to himself, coming from what was probably the hallway. Apparently, he had thought it was locked and tried to unlock it, but it ended up locking the unlocked door instead. Once again, there was the sound of the lock turning, and this time, the door opened with a faint sound. Why is Hideyoshi-san in this room? Footsteps which sounded like his came in, and there was the sound of him closing and locking the door behind him. Then came what seemed to be the sound of him setting the chain. Don't tell me Hideyoshi-san is the mastermind? Or else an accomplice? Is he planning to do something to me in this room? The door may only be locked from the inside, but it will still take some time to remove the chain. If Hideyoshi-san doesn't intend to let me escape from here, there's no chance he'll give me time to fumble around with the chain. In that case, when he opens the closet door wide in just a moment, and looks down upon me sitting here pathetically, just what kind of horrifying words will he say? Yeah, he's the culprit and that's how he kills. History lectures. There's another universe somewhere where these two are friends and tell each other really boring things. And I'm very happy for them. I don't want to be found. I don't want to be found. I beg you, pass right on by the closet door. Please keep going into the center of the room. My head was filled almost to bursting with a throbbing sound so loud that I almost missed hearing his noisy footsteps. So when I heard a clunking sound coming from the center of the room, I finally realized that he'd passed by the closet and was deeply relieved. Just in case. Can't tell if it's day or night in this weather anyway. As he muttered, he did something that made a clunking sound. He was probably closing the shutters on the windows. Just in case. In case I tried to escape out the window? No, that can't be it. That's right. When I left the parlor, everyone was talking about possibly taking a break. After all, several murders had occurred, and the weather was bad. There would be nothing abnormal about resting in a guest room here instead of returning to the guest house. In that case, locking up and closing the shutters to guarantee safety was the proper course of action to take. When he finished closing the shutters, there was a thunk as though he had flopped over on the bed. It was surprising how much of the situation could be grasped just by the sound. What's going on here? Did the man from 19 years ago plan all this out to put me in the same room as Hideyoshi-san? No, that probably isn't true. Clearly he planned on me hiding here, but Hideyoshi-san coming to take a rest here must have been outside the scope of his plan. Thinking about it that way, having him in the room, might help to secure my own safety in an odd sort of way. Unlike his wife, Hideyoshi-san is the kind of person I can talk to. If Eva-san comes, things will probably get complicated. Maybe I should slip out of this closet now while he's still alone. Reveal everything just to him and ask for help. But if I do that, my husband might be killed. It isn't wise to do anything rash until my husband is released. Should I go out and talk or hide in here? Moaning from my headache and biting my lower lip, I resisted the temptation to crawl out of here. Even if I talk with Hideyoshi-san, I don't know where my husband is being held. I'm sure the informant who is observing me is nearby as well. Just talking to him won't solve everything. I suspect that Shannon is an informant, but that doesn't mean that Goda and the others aren't. It's no good. Leaving here and confessing is just too dangerous. Eventually, I heard a strange, sobbing voice. Whose voice was it? I strained my ears, trying to hear that strange voice. I was shocked to discover that it was Hideyoshi weeping. Now that he was all alone like this, Hideyoshi, who had lost his only son, was finally able to shed tears and cry. Thinking that he needed to support Eva in her distress, he had acted as though he alone was standing firm. However, he had as good as a right as anyone to cry. And now that he had found a place where no one could see his tears, he was finally allowing himself to let it out. I've lost my daughter too. I haven't seen her body with my own eyes, so it still doesn't really feel like she's dead. But if the one who carried her off was the culprit, and he had some repulsive motive for doing it, just thinking about it makes me feel as though my chest will tear itself apart. The reason I'm hiding in here now is that I'm thinking more about my still living husband than my dead daughter. But if I were given the chance, I'd be wailing at the top of my lungs too. However, I still can't let myself do that. That isn't because the man from 19 years ago told me to hide. It's because I'm the final head of There Should Be a Family. It's been completely overshadowed by all of this. But last night, Balorkun found the hidden gold and even gained the head's ring for that mysterious envelope. At the very, very end, when it's all over, I probably won't be able to prevent him from inheriting the family headship. And when everything regarding the distribution of the inheritance is revealed, the Ushidoriya family honor and glory passed down from father will plummet to the earth. So I am the final head. Balorkun will probably inherit the remaining wealth of the Ushidoriya family. However, its history and honor will all end with my generation. Therefore, I am the final head. I must not cry. Not yet. Until I get my husband back and avenge my daughter, I will not be allowed to shed tears. As I listened to Hideyoshi-san's sobs from the closet, I silently hung my head. Who are you? Huh? My heart leapt. Hideyoshi-san, who must have been lying prostrate on the bed, made a sound as though he had bounded to his feet. Did he notice me? How did you get in here? What's that? Wait a second. What? He was clearly in a struggle with someone. Who could it be? No, it doesn't matter who it is. It's probably the culprit, and they're probably trying to take Hideyoshi-san's life at this very moment. Shouldn't I jump out of here and help him? Even if I couldn't help him, I could at least call for help. No, but if I do something like that, I'll be questioned about why I was hiding here. However, if Hideyoshi-san goes on to get killed now isn't the time to be saying that. At this rate, he'll definitely be killed. I'll jump out of here and help him right now. But if I do that, even if I can save Hideyoshi-san, I might be abandoning my husband's life. Hideyoshi-san's life and my husband's life. How sinful would it be to try to weigh those against each other? Just then, there was a loud sound of the door opening and the chain being pulled tight. Someone was trying to open the door despite the chain being set. Honey, it's me. Could you open up? Ava. Honey? What's happening? Honey, open up. Open up. Open up. Honey. It's someone. She opened and closed the door over and over again with all her might, but of course she couldn't snap the chain. Eva-san raced down the hallway calling for help in a loud voice. By this time, the room had settled back into silence, and that earlier feeling of Hideyoshi being in a noisy struggle had disappeared completely. What's going on here? So, right now, I'm in the same room as the murderer who killed Hideyoshi-san. In that case, the culprit should try to escape from the room as soon as possible, so why are they staying so quiet in here? I haven't heard anything. Nothing that might have been the culprit who attacked Hideyoshi-san rushing away. No matter how much I strain my ears, I can't sense anyone in the room. In fact, it's so silent that it makes what happened just a second ago feel like an illusion. In other words, does this mean that the culprit is holding his breath, standing right in front of this closet, waiting for me to shamelessly come out. I don't even know what to be scared of anymore. If only I could just melt away into the darkness of this closet. I mustn't remain in this room any longer. I get the feeling I have more to worry about than just my personal safety. But what should I do? I don't even know if it's a good idea to leave this closet. Before long, the clamor of many rushing footsteps approached. I held my breath again and melted away into the darkness of the closet. Ava dashed back, bringing everyone with her. Goda was gripping a bolt cutter. It was to cut the chain with. After trying to open the door again and confirming that the chain was still set, she yelled through the crack in the door. "Honey, we're going to open this up. Cut it right now." Yes. Goda stuck the large bolt cutter, which looked like it could slice off whole fingers, I don't know where that two came from, into the crack in the door and easily severed the chain. Dear. As soon as it was severed, Ava pushed Goda aside and dashed in. Yeah, like that's the limit. You cut off 2 fingers and that's it. That's all you get. That's how that works, right? The others tried to follow her, but they bumped into Ava, who had fallen to her knees, moaning. So even though they couldn't tell much of what was going on inside the room, they could tell by Ava's moans that they were too late. What the hell? Honey, honey, Dr. Nanjo, look at my husband, quickly. I'll do it right now. You've got to be kidding me. It's only been about 10 minutes since Uncle Hideyoshi went out saying he wanted to rest. Is there anyone in the bathroom? No, there's no one here. That's not what Goda sounds like. What could have happened? Honey. I'm afraid to say there's nothing I can do. Nanjo sat up, hanging his head sadly, unable to perform the ancient rites of resurrection. That's Beatrice's thing. It was only natural, because anyone, even if they weren't a doctor, would think that at a glance. Hideyoshi was lying face down on the bed, and stuck deep into his back was something like a blade with an intricate demonic design on it. When Ava pulled it out with all her might, they could tell that it wasn't a blade, but some kind of stake. And its sharp tip had penetrated nearly 15 centimeters in. It had probably dug deep into the lungs. If it had been stuck in any harder, the tip might even have pierced all the way through to the surface of his chest. I don't think that's true. He's a big man. 15 centimeters isn't that much. Anyway. Didn't I tell you to wait for me? Why did you go on alone? Stupid. 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 The culprit probably waited for us to get careless and split up. That bastard. So he still hasn't had enough blood? So, he really is hiding somewhere in this mansion and coming after us? there's something strange here. The doors and windows to this room are completely sealed. That's right. The shutters are all shut, and the chain was on the door until a second ago. Huh? Isn't that bizarre? In that case, how did the culprit attack Hideyoshi-san in this room? Perhaps they threw the stake through the crack in the door. Hideyoshi-san's bed is in a total blind spot from this crack. You couldn't even kill him with a gun. This really is strange. It's a locked room murder. A locked room murder? It's a bit too early to be sure about that. Maybe the culprit removed the ceiling in the bathroom and escaped to the space above it, or maybe you can close the shutters from outside.
The shutters. They didn't budge an inch from the outside. I just went and checked.
Erika. It was no wonder everything felt so quiet and relaxed. Until the murder, I presume, Balor. Damn. Right? The dramatic entrance. At some point, Erika had split from the group. Just now, she'd finally arrived and poked her face in from the hallway. She had heard that a crime had occurred in this room, seen everyone rushing towards it, and taken the opposite approach by circling around to the outer wall. And she had gone all by herself to check that the shutters were down on the windows, that you couldn't do anything with them from the outside, and that there was nothing out of the ordinary.
I assume that the inside of the room is perfectly cliché.
That wasn't called for.
You have my deepest condolences. So, what is the state of the room?
The chain was set on the doors, so he cut it and entered. And all the windows have the shutters down. They're locked tight from the inside.
What are they bickering about in there?
Ava was arguing with Nanjo about something. Apparently, she wanted to carry the body to the parlor. Nanjo tried to calm her, saying that they should leave the crime scene as untouched as possible until the police came. What happened to the other corpses when we did that? The culprit carried them off somewhere. It may be that the culprit isn't satisfied with just killing, but intends to do something with the bodies as well. So no way we're leaving my husband all alone here. Ava did have a point. After all, the prior victims were all carried away after we were shown their terrible and fatal wounds. Erika-chan, you'd probably like to preserve the crime scene, but could you just let this one slide?
Do as you wish. All I'm interested in is the fact that a locked room has appeared that's much more serious than Kinzo-san's study. I have no interest in corpses, so do as you please.
Balor looks at her with an expression of clear disgust, but it rolled off her like water off a duck's back.
Well, you can take the corpse away now. I don't mind. Or am I in the way?
Erika backed away from the door to open a path. There was no trace of any sadness for the dead. Her eyes simply blazed at the thought of this locked room murder that had appeared. In any event, the great detective had given her permission. Ava and some others wrapped Hideyoshi's body up in the sheets, and Goda and Rudolph started to carry him out. The sheets quickly turned red. It was so painful to see that Shannon and Kumasawa stripped the blanket off the bed to further cover the body. Hey, out of the way.
Yes, I am out of the way.
Let's carry him to the parlor. Yes. Honey. Ugh. Listen up, everyone. From now on, we'll always move as a group. You must not let yourself be isolated. The culprit probably got a master key when he attacked Genji-san. It's clear that locking up will no longer keep us safe. But even the chain was set. How did they do it? It's impossible. The shutters in the chain were firmly set. Even with a master key, it's impossible to force your way into that room. It must have been Beatrice-sama's doing. Oh.
There's no way Beatrice-sama did this. The epitaph has been solved, so there shouldn't be any more reason to hold the ritual.
As if we could understand her reasons. This is impossible for anyone except a witch.
Impossible for anyone except a witch, you say? Good. That has a nice ring to it.
Erika-chan, are you listening? We've decided to stick together from now on. First, we're carrying Hideyoshi-san's body to the parlor. Can you hold off playing detective until we get there? When she heard the words playing detective, Erika grimaced visibly. Then, after everyone had filed out, she took a single step into the now empty guest room, looked around, and burned the scene into her eyes. Erika claimed to have a photographic memory. If that was true, those few seconds were more than enough for her. Later on, she could sip black tea in the parlor while perusing her mental photographs of the crime scene, and enjoy playing the part of the armchair detective. Then, suddenly, her eyes stopped on the closet off to the side. A closet for hanging overcoats. If it was large enough to fit a coat on a hanger, a person should be able to hide in it. Slowly, Erika stretched her hand out towards the closet. Erika's shoulder was grabbed roughly from behind. Let's go, Miss Detective. Didn't they teach you to stick with a group on school field trips?
Well, whenever I go traveling, someone always dies.
Hey, what do you think you're doing, brats? Move it. Rudolph told him to hurry. After clicking her tongue and glaring at the closet, Erika followed Battler back to the parlor for the time being. The sound of their footsteps finally faded. That time of terror, when I feared that even the dripping of the cold sweat that covered my cheeks might be noticed, was finally over. Yeah, I feel like that's really like a hallmark of a detective, you know? You're not a real detective until people start dying wherever you go. So, if you're noticing a lot of dead people, you might just be a detective. I slowly opened the closet door with hands that still couldn't stop trembling and dashed out into the hallway. It's alright. No one's found me. Still, it's a good thing they didn't lock the door. If they had, I wouldn't be able to lock it behind me after I left, and they'd find that suspicious. I mean, you wouldn't be able to get out, right? Wait, no, she has a key. Anyway, I should leave this place. Then I'll return to my room and pretend that I was sleeping the whole time. That's right, I have to get back quickly. A new murder has occurred. They'll probably try to tell me about it. And they'll probably do it immediately after they carry Hideyoshi-san's body back to the parlor. I can get around a phone call by saying I was asleep and didn't notice, but if they come knocking directly, that'll be bad. I have to get back quickly before they try to force their way in. I don't think dead computers count, no. But that's a good thing, because I don't think being a detective would be... Well, it'd be fun, but, all the dead bodies put a damper on things. Unless you're Eric and then you don't care. don't even know whether I should sprint back noisily to save every second I can, or sneak back with hushed footsteps, or walk around normally as though I don't know anything has happened. The one thing I'm certain of is that I have to avoid bumping into them on their way back to the parlor. I have to get to my room, at a quick pace, without being noticed by anyone. I pass through the hall, to the lobby. Once I've ascended the main staircase in the lobby, I'll be almost there. Natsuhi-san. Just as she was about to go up the large staircase, Natsuhi heard Erika call out to her, and was so surprised that she visibly jumped.
I was just about to go tell you.
Thank you very much. Did something happen?
Natsuhi-san, were you just going up the stairs? Your room is upstairs, isn't it?
Erika coldly pointed out this strange fact. Natsuhi cursed her bad luck. I couldn't sleep, so I was going to return to the parlor. But I wasn't sure whether I'd locked my room or not, so I was about to head back. I'm a worrier, so this sort of thing happens a lot. Don't worry about it.
Ah, of course, that is quite common, isn't it? It's a common quirk among people who aren't confident in their ability to remember things.
Erika was clearly making fun of her, and Natsuhi might have put on an annoyed expression under normal circumstances. However, right now, Natsuhi was extremely relieved to hear Erika admit that this was nothing out of the ordinary. Why are you by yourself, Erika-san?
I thought I might examine that guest room.
Guest room?
Yes. Things have gotten pretty serious, haven't they? And investigating the scene of the crime is my right.
Erika's probing gaze peered deep into Natsuhi's eyes. She could tell. Erika was already suspicious of Natsuhi. Judging by the subtle nuances of her words, this was almost certainly an attempt to make Natsuhi slip up and reveal that she knew about the Hideyoshi murder that she hadn't yet been told about. Natsuhi played dumb and asked again what had happened. Is something wrong?
No, I was just thinking. This is a repeat of the first crime, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Again, you were in your room. And again, you can't prove your alibi, can you?
I don't know what you mean. To turn it around, how can you prove that I wasn't in my room?
Oh, an interesting response. Then let's take this one step at a time. Please worry about your lock later. I have something vitally important to discuss with everyone.
I'll come back after I check my lock. Please get started without me.
Hideyoshi-san has been killed. We'll be talking about that.
What? She'd planned on escaping to her own room using her lock as an excuse, claiming to have a sudden headache and staying in bed the rest of the time. However, now that she had been informed of Hideyoshi's murder, it would be clearly suspicious to say that could wait and escape to her room. She was already under suspicion after being seen heading up the stairs to the second floor. She couldn't afford to do anything else suspicious. Natsuhi gave up and headed for the parlor as Erika had urged her to do. Excuse me while I check something real quick. Okay. Ah, beans. Okay. In episode 6, I will explain why I was disappointed just now. So in like a couple weeks. 3, 4-ish, I think. Anyway. When she opened the door to the parlor, Ava's sobs poured out. And everyone stared at Natsuhi with grave faces. Those gazes almost made it look as though they suspected her. It was now painfully apparent to Natsuhi. This must have been what that man was after. It was a trap to create a baffling locked room murder and frame her for it. But I couldn't disobey. I couldn't sacrifice my husband's life. And while it's true that I was hiding in the closet, that was all. I haven't committed murder. I might fall under enormous suspicion, but I'm still not the culprit. And most importantly, I'm not under suspicion yet. I'll tell the police everything. I'll have to endure it until then. I'm sure one of the servants is feeding information to the culprit. Even in a situation like this, if I talk about my husband being a hostage, the culprit will hear and it might be used as an excuse to kill him. Natsuhi-san has just come back. Now that we're all here, I have something very important to discuss with you all. Something very important? Yes, it's very important. Here, in front of you all, I would like to set out the facts of everything that's happened, from the first crime to the last. Then you can leave me out of it if you please. I think we should leave that sort of thing to the police. I'm not interested. I have something very important to say once I've cleared everything up. Neither you nor anyone else has the right to refuse. What? Erika used her detective's authority to proclaim the start of an assembly. None of the pieces could disobey. Praying that she wouldn't become the topic of conversation, Natsuhi reluctantly sat on the sofa as she'd been urged to. Oh, sorry. Could you close that door for me? Yes. Shannon and Kanon closed the door. Since they had just now decided to lock all doors and windows carefully, Kanon locked it as well. The lock, which existed to protect the safety of this room, felt like a lock on a prison cell to Natsuhi, one that would hold her there and prevent any escape. Natsuhi still hadn't noticed that ever since Erika had left into the corridor to go check the crime scene in Hideyoshi's room, her goal had changed. In short, from Erika's point of view, the sound of that lock was truly... Checkmate! Erika said that suddenly. Berncastle said that suddenly. Oh, fast! Wow, so you figured out the culprit already? We've barely gotten to any of the crimes, you know. You could have let me kill a few more and gathered in all kinds of clues. All kinds of clues, even. Alright, Lambda, gather all of the pieces. Now we're getting to the most entertaining part. Let's both enjoy it to the fullest. We'll see about that. Why don't you show me what you've got? To think that she'd lay down the challenge without waiting for the game to be over at midnight. What a hasty person that Lady Berncastle. It is quite an early challenge. To think that she already feels she can win at this stage. Claiming a witch exists is normally all you need to do to win. But with Natsuhi and Kinzo, we've got a lot more we need to protect this time. Sounds like this fight'll be a pain. I welcome a troublesome fight. I won't let them do as they please with my golden island anymore. I shall meet your challenge, Lady Berncastle. Furu no Erika? Thought there was more to that sentence, but nope. In the Golden Land, the endless rain continued to fall. Balor was nowhere to be seen. Woods very soon reached the time when Balor had joined in on the 5th game, and control of his piece would be passed on to him. In other words, only now, in this final stage of the game when Bernkastel had pinpointed the culprit, was Balor finally going to be allowed to participate. He had left the arbor a short while ago for that reason. Now the only ones in sight were Virgilia, who continued to knit silently, and Beato, who just sat there blankly amidst the smell of her black tea, not even putting the cup to her lips. Virgilia stopped knitting for a moment, and looked out across the vast golden rose garden that extended as far as the eye could see. At least in terms of mere culprit-guessing games, I think we can say that Balor-kun has gained the strength to never again surrender. You gave him every message he needs by the end of the 4th game. That is to say, Balor-kun possesses all the tools to reach the truth at any moment. However, he has a weak side. Because of that, even if the game goes on to repeat 100 times, he will never solve it. He'll just wander forever like someone trying to find the bluebird. And that, Beatrice, goes for you as well. Even if you play this game hundreds more times, you will never arrive at the answer you seek. Bernkastel will abuse this game without a doubt. Lambda Delta will also churn this game about with the utmost arrogance. At a glance, that may be humiliating and appear to you and Balor as though the game has been stolen from you. However, that is something the two of you need right now, to bring an end to Balor's weak side. Oh, hey Chris, how are you doing? First off, hi. How was your stream? I dropped in for a little bit, but then I had to start myself, so couldn't stick around. And yeah, Kat, by the end of episode 4, you have all the information you need to figure out who done it and why. In broad lines, you know. By that point, it should be possible to... Hey Laura, how are you doing? Thank you for the 10 months, dang. How's it going? Rimworld made you too angry? Oh. Did the colony not, like, do well? Seems like a really difficult game. Just taking a water break. Yeah, I'm doing good. It's brutal when it wants to be, yeah. I can see that. Especially, didn't I... The character you named after me last time didn't like die like twice? Something like that? It was wild. Oh, you've been lurking? Thank you for lurking. I appreciate it. I hope you're, enjoying the story. It's a long one. We're actually sort of ish getting close to the end of wait, that's not true, I'm lying. There's still a whole bit. We're well past the halfway point at this point, which is good, because this is like the 8th episode of this arc. So, you know, making good progress. At the beginning of this year, I said it would take until the end of the year to finish it. It's gonna be longer than that. I'm thinking it'll probably take until February, maybe March, to finish all 8 arcs. Because I can't do like 3-4 hour episodes anymore. But also just in general. It's a long game. Alright. Actually, I'm gonna spend my own dang points. I do love a good save reminder on this stream. To bring an end to Balor's weak side. To bring an end to your hesitation. And that is why you call the two of them here. To end the eternal torture between the two of you. Those two will bring you either victory or defeat. But either result will now be one filled with compassion. You should understand that as well by now. Virgilia faced Beato, whom she had come to adore like a daughter, with cold eyes she must not have shown often. It was like the gaze of a mother who, instead of scolding, silently urges their child to recognize their mistake. Beatrice, how long do you intend to stay there? Neither alive nor dead, not ascending to heaven, nor descending to hell, there in a daze on the peak of Mount Purgatory. I am Virgilia. I have guided him through Purgatory and brought him to you at his peak. And you are Beatrice. You must choose whether to take his hand and rise up to heaven, or embrace him and fall into hell. Did you know that the tribulations of Purgatory, which lies in the gap between heaven and hell, are sometimes more torturous than even hell itself? On the gates of hell, it is written that you must abandon all hope. A human without hope can accept their suffering and give up. However, the denizens of Purgatory have hope. A hope of possibly reaching heaven. A hope that cannot be abandoned. And that tortures them. Even in the depths of hell, no greater torture device exists than the single pin known as hope. Leap. Leap from the cliff of Purgatory. Cast open Pandora's box and cast aside your fleeting, fragile, foolish hope and all the longing it brings. You're afraid, aren't you, of opening the box? Beato was silent, but with a single tear, she nodded slightly. Is the cat in the box alive or dead? The time has now come to check. If the cat is dead, hold a funeral for it quickly and have it rise to heaven. If the cat is alive, feed it quickly and give it all of your affection. Whether it is alive or dead, your cat box eternally desecrates the cat. Those two have brought you the key to the box that you are too afraid to open. Beatrice, the time has come for you to die. I hope that your heart will be stopped. by the hand of the person you desire. I don't want to end it here, but I have to. I've actually been reading like a really long thread of someone like analyzing all of the games, like in hindsight. That's a new sound. Why is it a church this time? Yeah, I've been reading like a whole analysis and more bells. Oh, yeah, I see it. Okay. Yeah, this is where we're gonna end. Cool background. I love that. Very nice room. Yes, I'm actually gonna immediately exit the game because this is gonna be hard to shout over. That was a bit of a loud game. Loud song. But yes, so that last bit sounds like there's like double, triple meanings and stuff. There's quadruple, quintuple meanings to it. I've been reading this thread of someone like analyzing the whole game, and oh my god. There's so much to that bit just now. It made me sad. And that was well before the part that was actually like explicitly sad, so yeah. Once we finish this, I really recommend that you just go back and play the game again. Like, just buy it and play it, because it's gonna be there's gonna be so much that you're gonna pick up on, and that's gonna take on a different meaning. And it's so interesting. It's great. It will be painful. It might make you cry, but it will be worth it. It's like pain, but in a good way, you know? Yeah, the music, all of the music is great. Episode 5 has some bangers. 2 of my favorites are from episode 5. I love them. Yeah, there's so much bittersweet stuff and just bitter stuff, honestly, that you don't pick up on at all the first time because you don't have the context. Okay. That wraps it up for now. We made real good progress. Again, yeah. Let's see, I think if that is next week... Oh shit. Sorry, I'm looking at what's coming up and some of it's really good. Might be able to finish this in 2 to 3 episodes, which would be great, actually. I hope that that's the case. And then yeah, it really is gonna be like March or April to finish the whole series. And then there's the, as of now, untranslated 9th episode, plus the fan discs, which sound like they are made by fans, but are for fans, so they're like extras. And there's 2 sets of those, which are all short stories. So it's gonna be an Umineko filled a year next year, assuming I can get my hands on all that. I have hope. It's a very small hope, but I have hope. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, me too. I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. Until then, I'm gonna be back on Monday, as usual. I'm probably going to work on Iggy for a little bit. Like I have been. Yeah, that's probably the plan. And I'm gonna upload the video of this as soon as possible. So keep an eye on that if you've been following the YouTube releases and or the Twitch highlights, whichever you prefer. And then on Wednesday next week, we're gonna go to court. We're actually gonna go to Magic Witch Court. I'm not kidding. That's why there was like, you know, the bells and stuff. It's court time. It's gonna be great. It's spectacular. I promise it's gonna be so good. Yeah. I'm so hyped. Erica's guilty of being a terrible detective. She's a good detective. She's just a terrible, terrible person. But yes, correct. Maybe she'll be like on trial a little bit in that sense. We'll see. Or maybe not. Maybe she's gonna like win and it's gonna be terrible. Can go either way. We'll see. I'm hyped for next week. I hope to see you guys again then. Thank you for watching, for being in the chat, or lurking, whichever it is, or watching the VOD if you're doing that. I appreciate it so much, and I hope you're enjoying it. And have a great evening, /day, /week. I always say that. It's become a thing now. I have to finish the whole ramble. I hope she gets re-assimilated. That would be interesting. But yes, have a great day, and a good night, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.